All-wheel drive, who needs it? Well, if you don't want all-wheel drive, Audi has a solution for you. This is a front-wheel drive Audi Q5, and it goes away with the Quattro all-wheel drive system. That all-wheel drive system which has made Audi very famous because it goes back to their original Quattro rally car, which it was named after. So what happens when you get an Audi SUV that isn't very good at going off-road? Well, you get a more affordable, more fuel-efficient, and a lower cost to maintain Audi Q5. So a front-wheel drive Audi Q5 is going to cost you somewhere just under $70,000, and that's because this car here has a $1,500 paint option, which is called Manhattan Grey, very suitable for weather like today. Now, this specific model is called the Audi Q5 35 TDI Limited Edition. Big mouthful, but that limited edition doesn't mean that this is a limited model. Audi says that the front-wheel drive Q5 will be a permanent member of the Q5 family moving on. So what you have here is a stock standard Audi Q5. It's nothing too complicated, but it does all the basic things very well. We have very basic LED lights, we have a new grille design here, and then we've also got some pretty spectacular looking 20-inch wheels fitted to this car here. And so if you're looking for one particular reason to get the limited edition version of this car, it would be these wheels because they just look spectacular. Now, you do have some bright work around the car down towards the side skirts around the windows, and you do have some nice cool looking roof rails. And you also do have keyless entry and exit, and what I like about Audis is that they put that sensor both on the front and rear door. So if it means you're towards the back, you won't have to go running towards the front to lock it, which seems maybe a little bit lazy to some, but I appreciate the extra effort. So Audi hasn't made it obvious that this is a front-wheel drive Q5. Unless you have keen eyes, you wouldn't know that this is any different from another Q5 on the road. You have an automatic tailgate, you have no fake exhaust at the back, which I think looks a little bit more premium than the fake ones they put on other Audi models. You have a metal skid plate here, which looks fantastic and takes a beating when you drag things in and out of this boot. And you do have a spare tire underneath. You have some netting at the back here. You can fold your seats down in a 40-20-40 split to make the absolute most of this smaller SUV's interior space. And they've also thrown in a pretty big cargo cover. And of course, the benefit of getting a Q5 is that an adult can sit very comfortably here in the second row. I have plenty of headroom, I have my own lights, I have my own climate controls, I have 2 USB ports, and I even have a 12-volt socket here in the back. You even get a center armrest that folds down, which is pretty large, and it has cup holders in there, which are pretty small. They're only good for small cups. So really what you're going to be able to use is this door bin here for your larger water bottles. Now, probably the most important thing about this car is what's under its bonnet. It's a 2-liter turbocharged mild hybrid 4-cylinder diesel, and it only produces a small amount of power. It's 120 kilowatts and 370 newton meters of torque, and it's sending power exclusively just to those front wheels. But what's interesting is that you look under here and it's actually been longitudinally placed, something you'd find on more sporty SUVs. But more interestingly, out of everything that's here is the fact that this can go 1,400 kilometers per 1 tank of diesel, according to Audi, which is an ultra efficient figure. When I filled this thing up, I saw a quoted range of 1,200 kilometers, and that was just doing some city driving, let alone putting highway miles on this thing. I wouldn't be surprised if you could get close to that figure. Now, there's only one slight problem. When you send power to the front wheels of an SUV only, and you want to do SUV things, that can prove to be a little challenging. So yeah, did you see that? This car is slipping its wheels on a gentle grassy slope that I can walk up just fine. Now, if you've watched other reviews on this channel, you would know that I've taken cars up this exact bit of grass, and they've been rear-wheel drive and heavier than this car, and have somehow managed to find traction where this car can't. Now, I had faith in the off-road mode that this car had, and that was me testing it. And I didn't think I was going to have to stress test it at all because I thought it would have done this hill just fine. But it goes to show that this Q5 really isn't built for going off-road much at all. That off-road mode maybe is for something like this, loose surfaces that are more flat and more gradual in their hill climb rather than something maybe like that. And these tires are road tires. They're not focused on getting any grip going up a grassy slope like that. But it's just worth pointing out that if you want to do any slight off-road things, going to a farm like this, you might have to reconsider being solely focused on the front-wheel drive option in the Q5 lineup. You might be better off going for a lower spec all-wheel drive model. But if you're looking at this and going, Cameron, I never, ever, ever step foot on a farm like this. I'm far too good for that. I'm going to stay in the city, stay on the paved roads. Well, this car does that very well. And this car also has a dynamic mode. So we're in dynamic now, and it sort of tightens everything up. Tightens the gearbox, tightens the engine, and you've got yourself a sporty Q5 that's front-wheel drive. Now look, this isn't going to be the best car to pick if you want the most amount of acceleration. This thing will go 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in around 9 seconds, which isn't that fast. That is kind of slow for an Audi. And so what you're going to be really using this for is for the comfort and efficiency modes. Now, dynamic's good to carve up a few corners and sort of get this thing feeling a bit more lively, but jumping into comfort mode is where I usually live all of my life when I'm cruising around in this Q5. Now that relaxes everything. You get looser steering, you get a sort of less stressed gearbox because it's changing really early, and you have this motor that's just humming away in the background, and the car just feels far more relaxed, and it really is a true comfort mode. It's a very refined ride in here as well. You can hear the cabin isolation is actually really, really good, and even these bass speakers are actually some of the best bass speakers I've tested in any SUV or car. I think they're quite good and could pass easily as a higher set. Now, this interior is also quite high quality as well. We have plenty of nice materials, and there's no squeaking or rattling, and all the switchgear sounds amazing, and all the buttons feel great, and it's just part of the appeal of cruising around in a Q5 and driving in one. It's super easy to drive and operate, super easy to drive smoothly as well. It's a great daily driver option in that way, and then all the ways that the interior comes together in terms of the materials, the build quality, and just the fit and finish of everything. Like, I can easily read my dials here, I can easily access things through the simple UI in this menu. It's really not a fussy car at all. The only point of complaint I will make is that these controls for your AC are just a little tricky for some people to find, because you have to lay your finger down on these touch sensitive pads to sort of access all your different menus. Otherwise they sort of become a bit hidden on this black screen. So for some people who have never jumped into this car, trying to adjust the air conditioning can be a bit of a challenge, even though it's fully physical in all of its buttons. Now, we have one mode here that some people might be interested in, because this is all about efficiency. So we have an efficiency mode. And so if we jump into efficiency mode, this car will be ultra conservative with its fuel consumption. And that means you're cruising along and that's all good. But then what's really interesting is that when you go to coast, your revs drop down to 0. And you're like, oh, did something happen to the engine? Did we stall? But no, the second you put your foot on the accelerator, the engine will glide back into power, and it does a really good job of just trying to save as much fuel as possible. So my quoted fuel consumption when driving up here has been below 6 liters per 100 kilometers with a mix of urban and highway driving. Now, this car is apparently capable of hitting 4.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which a lot of publications fail to hit, and a lot of people are just a bit skeptical of that figure. So am I as well. After my test, I would say around 5 to 6 liters is what you can expect if you're driving this car without a massive lead foot. But not that you can really drive this thing with a lead foot, because it only has 120 kilowatts, so it's not going to be the fastest Audi SUV in your lineup. Now, you don't need Quattro, you want Quattro, because you want it to go on surfaces you know you're going on a yearly basis. If you're going to the snow, you're going on a bit of sand maybe, a bit of gravel, and a bit of grass. But if those things sound very foreign to you, then you do not need Quattro. If you're on the pavement 90% of the time and maybe encounter a gravel road here and there, this car will be the one to pick. It is the most affordable way to get into a Q5, and I actually think it is a brilliant SUV overall. I don't mind the fact it's lacking some tech here and there. It has analog dials, it has maybe a more basic interior compared to more flashy Audi models, but I really like that this car does all the basics so well. It has great materials, it has really nice feel to it, it's nice and quiet, drives really well, and also is nice and fuel efficient, which a lot of people will appreciate with the price of diesel fluctuating all over the place. Now, I've driven the V6 version of the Q5, which had Quattro, and that is a brilliant machine, but it also costs a whole lot more. So if you are looking for a nice, sweet entry Audi SUV that isn't a cramped little crossover, then you've got yourself a Q5 with front-wheel drive, and I think it is a pretty good place to start. Now, thanks for watching. This has been Product Review Cars. I really appreciate you stopping by. If you like reviews like this, it really helps if you smash that subscribe button down below with your fists, break through your screen, make sure you do that. And if you like this video, hit that like button. If you didn't like it, dislike it, and let me know in the comments, would you consider a front-wheel drive Audi SUV, or is all-wheel drive a must? My name's Cameron. I'll see you in the next one.